Hey everybody, welcome back to Veteranbassin, and I'm here to talk to you about a technique that is not mentioned a lot in the world of fishing. Stay tuned. So in fishing, you hear a lot of things like impart action, how to work this bait, how to work that bait, and that is all good. That is all good, and it is a good thing to do. You know, some baits like the Cinco, you know what I'm saying, it calls, for you to do a little bit of rod twitches, um, moving your rod to drag it. There's a lot of things you can do to get bites. But what happens when you're hopping a bait, you're dragging a bait, you're swimming a bait, and the fish just are not committing to it? What do? Well, there is this little thing, and I have a good jig here to help me to illustrate this. Now, there is a thing that you can do called dead sticking. Dead sticking. And what that is pretty much not imparting any action to the bait. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. So let me explain and go through this process. So you're down there, you throw a jig out, it falls to the bottom, and you go to hop it, you know what I'm saying, drag it along, real slow, and the fish is just not committing to it. So you figure, okay, I'm going to get me a crawl, cause the wavy legs, the wavy appendages, and you're going to cast it out there, and you're just going to swim it through. Maybe that's what they're looking for. You still can't get a bite. So this is when this come in handy, and this is something that you should give it a try the next time you just can't seem to buy a bite on anything that you're doing. And I've seen this done also well with a ribbon-tailed worm. I want you to remember that. The Googans make a good Mondo worm. Strike King makes a good ribbon worm, but try it out with them. And you want to fish it weightless. You want to fish it weightless. But I don't have any of those with me right now, so I'm using this jig for the example. You throw it out. You let it hit bottom. Okay? You let it hit bottom. What happens is you have the water current and so forth moving this little skirt around. That's what it's doing. It's going to be moving the skirt around. I can't simulate that because, well, I don't have any water. But it moves the skirt around whatsoever. Watch that. Every time the current moves, you see the skirt, it'll flare up, it'll float, so on. The only thing that you're doing is just letting it sit on the bottom. That's all that you're doing. You're letting it sit on the bottom. You're letting the skirt do what it do. You're not moving the rod tip. You're not reeling anything. You're not dragging. You're just letting it sit. That is called dead sticking. You're letting the water impart action to your bait for you. And sometimes that is what the fish truly wants. Sometimes that is. Okay? Now, this is not a technique that's going to always work, but sometimes this technique gets you the biggest bite, especially if you're using a jig to do it. Now, you can get quality bites with a ribbon-tailed worm doing this also. Okay? So, no matter where you are, if you're on a river system, highland reservoir, lowland reservoir, small pond, lake, doesn't matter. As long as they're current on the water, and 9 times out of 10, unless it is dead calm with the wind, then yeah, this technique is not going to work. But as long as you have a little breeze out there, you can do a good dead stick. Now, the technique that dead sticking applies to the most is wacky rig. Wacky rig, especially if you do have current out there. And I'll explain the wacky rig a little bit later on, which I think I've already talked about it, but I'm not too sure. I gotta go back in and check and see. But the wacky rig. The wacky rig is made for it because you throw that out there, you're not even supposed to really impart really much action to it. You know what I'm saying? To be honest with you, the wacky rig is supposed to sit and stay. Let me get out a Cinco so you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay. So the wacky rig, you know that you put the hook midway, right? You put the hook midway. When you throw it out, it dances going down. You know, that's all the action that it's doing is it's sinking to the bottom. Now, once it hit the bottom, you don't really have to do much as long as you got current, because the current is still going to make it twitch, so forth, ever so slightly. And that's when you get your bite set. You know what I'm saying? As the current doing everything. You don't really have to move it. As long as you're throwing this near fish, it will do the work for you. And that is basically dead sticking, where you are not really imparting any action onto it. You're letting the current of the water do all the work for you. That's dead sticking in a nutshell. So I would implore you to try to go out there and give that a try at least once. At least once in your life or once in your fishing trip, and see does that not help you. I would suggest also that you use the wacky rig instead of the jig to do it, because the bite on a wacky rig, you can feel that a whole lot better than on a jig. That's just what it is. So, but hey, that is something for you to try out there on your next fishing trip. Actually, not this time of year, but you know, pretty much in the spawn, it works, especially with bed fishing, but that is a whole different animal in itself. And we will discuss that coming up here pretty soon, because, well, we are only about, I would say, this is January, we are only about 2 months away, concluding this month, from the spawn. So, hey, let's get it out there. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and comment on anything else you would like to see. Veteranbassin, we gone.